protect you. But when your past traumas go unprocessed, your nervous system gets stuck in a loop, responding to everyday stress as if it were a life or death situation. This is why we must rewrite the narrative. Trauma reshapes the nervous system, altering your physiological responses. It rewrites your inner dialogue, convincing you that you are unsafe, unworthy, or powerless, even when none of that is true. But just as the nervous system can learn from fear, it can also learn from safety. One of the most powerful tools for regulation is the conscious act of changing your inner narrative, like we talked about earlier. So here are some ideas for changing about your inner dialogue. If you're feeling unsafe, but you look around you and you notice that there are no imminent threats, then you might say to your body, I am safe in this moment. You might say, I have choices. Or instead of saying, oh my God, I'm gonna feel like this for the rest of my life, you can say, this feeling too will pass. So we are rewriting that narrative even out loud of ourselves. It's not about toxic positivity. It's about rewriting the script that your body has been reading for years. It's my favorite slide of the whole show. It is your body's nervous system, or a nightmare, depending on who's watching. So this is what your nervous system looks like. Your nervous system is not meant to live in a constant state of fight or flight. It needs balance. Just as the body has mechanisms for stress and defense, it also has mechanisms for rest and digest and repair, a state often referred to as the parasympathetic nervous system, or just rest and digest. When you soothe your nervous system, you invite your body to soften, your digestion to resume, and your mind to quiet, and your spirit to settle into the safety of the present moment. So to engage your rest and digest nervous system, go back to the nightmare for a second. You can do some breathing techniques. Deep intentional breaths will help to ground safety in the nervous system. You can do some grounding exercises. That would be like physically going out into nature barefoot or holding something textured like a feather. Gentle movement like slow stretching or yoga, or just some like rhythmic rocking back and forth is nice. Nourishment and hydration. Make sure you're eating warm food when it's cold outside and getting lots of water. And then calming your sensory input would be listening to soothing music, dimming harsh lights, surrounding yourself with comforting scents so that you can get into a comfortable shape. But your nervous system is not an island, it's actually wired for connection. So self-regulation is the ability to manage your own emotions, energy, and nervous system state. This is a powerful skill, but it doesn't mean that you have to do it by yourself. Co-regulation is the process of finding and balancing through connection. Just as a child finds comfort in a caregiver's presence, we too find comfort in calm interactions, deep listening, and gentle presence. So this morning is an example of us co-regulating to one another. When someone speaks to you with kindness, they hold space for you. They hold space for your emotions without judgment. When they offer warmth instead of criticism, your nervous system will register safety. This is why relationships, support systems, and compassionate communities are essential for well-being. We are wired to regulate one another. The way we perceive trauma physically reshapes us. I know this firsthand. When trauma ruled my life, my nervous system was constantly signaling danger, cars felt too fast, music was too loud, lights were too bright, and I was always on edge. I was struggling to sleep, I was living in a cycle of stress, and without a compassionate inner foundation, I had no anchor, so to say. Mindfulness and sobriety helped me reframe my world, teaching my body that not every sensation is a threat. The world is still loud and it's still bright, but I no longer interpret those things as danger because I'm rewriting the narrative. Learning how my nervous system works has changed this inner dialogue from, why are you like this, Shannon? I would always say that to myself, why are you like this? Now I've changed that to, okay, Shannon, your nervous system is triggered. Maybe it's time to go for a walk or go do a little bit of yoga. And I'm a lot kinder to myself when I'm talking to myself. Healing for me echoes Andrea Gibson's words. And her quote is, it's time to detach from suffering if your pain about the pain was worse than the original pain. Learning about the nervous system also led me into interoception, which is the ability to sense and interpret what's happening inside of our bodies. So unlike external senses like sight or touch, which we practiced with earlier, interoception helps us recognize internal signals like our heartbeat, our breath patterns, hunger and fullness, when we need a bathroom break, physical comfort, and hormonal shifts. When we misinterpret these cues, it can contribute to anxiety, depression, disordered eating. But when we tune in, we create balance within ourselves, supporting this overall well-being. The key is rest. A well-rested body is more attuned to its signals, making it easier to recognize what we truly need. Rest has been one of the most important factors in supporting both my sobriety and my ability to navigate life. But how often do we actually let ourselves rest when we need it? In a world that rewards constant output, true rest can feel like an indulgence rather than a necessity. Yet it plays an essential role in our well-being, not just in terms of mental health, but also in concentration, memory, productivity, creativity, and even physical healing. Yet it plays an essential role in our well-being, not just in terms of mental health, but also in concentration, memory, productivity, creativity, and even physical healing. So when we don't get enough rest, our immune system weakens, injuries take longer to heal, and conditions like anxiety and depression become harder to manage. In addiction recovery, there's a tool, in addiction recovery and mental health circles, there's a tool called HALT, and it means, are you hungry, angry, lonely, or tired? It's a simple self-check to help recognize when our cravings or struggles are actually signs of an unmet need. For me, it's always tired. My body requires more rest than I think it should, and even after 35 years, I'm still learning to honor that. The problem is we live in a society that just doesn't value rest. Before electricity, humans lived by the rhythm of the sun, rising with its light and resting when it set. Our ancestors moved through the seasons in alignment with nature, slowing down in the colder months and increasing productivity when the light came. But with the invention of artificial light and the pressures of industrialization, rest was no longer seen as natural or necessary. In many cultures, daytime naps, once a norm, have all but been erased. The modern world equates productivity with personal worth, making rest something that we just have to justify rather than embrace. I recently listened to a podcast called We Can Do Hard Things by Glennon Doyle. It was featuring Dr. Devin Price, the author of Laziness Does Not Exist. So this hit me really hard, actually. I've spent a lot of my life calling myself lazy, but I've realized I'm not lazy. I just can't keep up with the relentless neuronormative expectations of productivity. I'm not lazy. I need rest. So much of my energy goes towards simply surviving, a reality that many neurodivergent folks and trauma survivors can deeply understand. But Dr. Price outlines these 3 core foundational lies that fuel our obsession with productivity. So Dr. Devin Price says, these are the lies that live in our heads. Your worth is measured by your productivity. You cannot trust your own feelings or limits, and there is always more that you can be doing. These beliefs are everywhere, and they shape how we push ourselves beyond our limits. But at what cost? How many of us are feeling constantly exhausted, running on empty, yet still feeling like we haven't done enough? We need to reframe the way that we see rest, not as a reward to have to earn, but as a fundamental part of being human. The next time you catch yourself labeling someone or yourself as lazy, pause. Ask yourself, what if this isn't laziness at all? Maybe it's exhaustion. Maybe it's burnout. What if it's someone who has spent years pushing past their limits and finally is listening to their body's call for rest? Personally, I've had to learn to build in breaks into my day, even after small tasks. It can be frustrating, especially when my to-do list is running long, but taking intentional pauses allows me to show up more fully for my life. Rest isn't a luxury, it is a necessity, and learning to prioritize it has been one of the most profound shifts in my healing journey. So there's just 3 other supports that I would like to talk to you about this morning that have helped me navigate life and its impact with fetal alcohol spectrum disorder. And so I'd like to take a moment to share my experience with receiving a diagnosis. So for many years, I asked myself such a damaging question, which was, what is wrong with me? A question that significantly impacted my sense of self. Deep down, I knew something quite wasn't right, and I was determined to understand it. I've been seeing counselors for 21 years. That's 21 years of navigating through misdiagnoses, differing opinions, and various medications. That's 21 years of hearing phrases like, it's all in your head, or you just need to try harder. During this time, I also took it upon myself to research different conditions, trying to fit together pieces of who I was. And after 2 decades of searching, I finally figured out FASD. I am incredibly fortunate for my stepmother, who worked in schools with high needs children, recognizing something familiar in my symptoms that she had seen in her students. She observed me navigating through a series of misdiagnoses and saw how hard I was working on my mental health, yet noticed that conventional interventions weren't yielding expected results. Sorry, I just got a 7-minute warning and it freaked me out. Gonna read a little faster. Okay. My diagnosis provided a new lens through which my family and I could understand my symptoms. Before the diagnosis, there was a lot of misunderstanding, leading to frustration and self-blame. My family didn't fully understand me, and frankly, I didn't understand me. So after my diagnosis, we were able to have open conversations about FASD and how it affects the brain, which fostered a deeper understanding of how to interact with one another in a more positive and supportive way. This not only gave me a framework and language to better understand myself, but it also opened the door for healing within my family. One specific example is confabulation. A common trait among people with FASD, confabulation is defined as fabricating imaginary experiences to compensate for memory loss. In my case, this often meant that I would unknowingly fill in gaps where my memory was blank, and those fabrications would become part of what I believed to be the actual memory. This led to confusion, as others would recall events differently, and then I was often accused of lying. It was perplexing for me because I remembered these events as if they had genuinely happened. Now, with the knowledge that poor memory and confabulation are part of my diagnosis, my family and I can better address and navigate these situations when they arise. I'm going to just skip ahead a little bit. One of the things that I talk about is my whole family going to therapy. Like, it wasn't just me, the person with FASD, but also my mom and my dad and my sister. Like, we all did our own therapy together as well as individually. And I think that that is incredibly important. And then the other thing that my family did for me to support my sobriety was they all also went alcohol free. So we had no alcohol in the house ever. It didn't matter if it was a celebration. There was no booze around, and that meant that I really felt supported by them. So I want to begin this next and final section by sharing a quote from the late Canadian writer Richard Wagamese, whose wisdom has deeply impacted my own understanding of healing and resilience. I no longer want to be resilient. I don't want to simply bounce back from the things that hurt me or cause me pain. Bouncing back means returning to where I stood before. Instead, I want to go beyond the hurts and the darkness. The first step toward genuine healing from my mental illness was when I came to trust and believe that there was a beyond. Now I reach for the beyond every day, in every encounter, in every circumstance. I seek to go where I have never traveled. I wake with a vision of a purposeful day filled with adventures and teachings, and then I take the first step and try and make it beyond. This quote resonates deeply with my personal journey, not only because of its call to move beyond struggle, but because it speaks to something greater, a spiritual dimension to healing. Resilience isn't just about bouncing back. It's about transforming, finding meaning, and seeking connection to the beyond that Wagamese describes. I want to acknowledge the wisdom and spiritual traditions that have long existed within Indigenous communities. Indigenous ways of knowing and being often center connection to the land, to ancestors, to community, and to spirit world. While my journey has been shaped by my own experiences and teachings, I approach this conversation with humility and deep respect for the sacredness of Indigenous spirituality. I recognize that as someone from the outside of these traditions, my role is to learn and honor the teachings shared here. In my own life, spirituality has been a key part of building resilience. It isn't tied to a specific faith or practice, but instead reflects a deepening awareness for the sacredness of life. It's about recognizing the extraordinary within the ordinary, the beauty of the earth, the cycles of nature, and the interconnectedness of all things. It's all about trust, trusting in the unseen, in the possibility of healing, and in the presence of something greater than myself. I want to share another quote, this one from Augustine Burroughs. Miracles do happen. You must believe this. No matter what else you believe about life, you must believe in miracles. Because we are all, every one of us, living on a rock that spins around and around at almost 250,000 miles per hour in an unthinkably vast blackness called space. There is nothing else like us for as far as our telescope can see. In a universe filled with spinning, barren, frozen, ice, gas, dust, radiation, we live on a planet filled with soft green leaves and salty oceans and honey made from bees, which themselves live within their own geometrically complex and perfect structure of their own architecture and creation. Burroughs reminds me that just being alive on this remarkable planet is a miracle. For me, spirituality is about holding space for those miracles, even in the midst of struggle. It's about trusting that there is a beyond, just as Wagamese described, a place where healing, growth, and connection are possible. I'm here today with immense gratitude for the opportunity to share this journey. Resilience for me is not just about moving through challenges, but also about finding meaning. Okay. I stand before you today as the sum of countless versions of myself, woven together over the last 35 years. I am the girl who struggles with an eating disorder, the addict, the sex worker. I'm the girl who stole, who lied, who carried a pain so unrelenting that it left scars not just on my soul, but within my very being. I am the one who battled anxiety, who endured the suffocating depths of depression, convinced the darkness would never lift. Each of these identities, each of these experiences lives within me like echoes, shaping who I am today. As Bessel van der Kolk reminds us, the body keeps a score. These parts of me are not just memories, they're imprinted on my biology and written into the fabric of my nervous system and entwined with my mental health. They shape how I see the world and how the world sees me. And only fetal alcohol spectrum disorder ties these experiences together, giving me a lens to understand the complexity of my journey. This diagnosis is not merely personal, it is profoundly societal, and that is why I stand here today, to humanize and challenge the stigma that is so often shrouding this condition. Dr. Gabor Mate once referred to a Lakota teaching. When someone in their community falls ill, the community responds, "Thank you. Your illness reflects the dysfunction in our community." This wisdom reminds us of our interconnectedness, of the truth that individual well-being cannot be separated from the health of our whole. I am here to say that we as a society are unwell. Our illness is not confined to the mind. It courses through our bodies, seeps into our emotional and spiritual well-being, and shapes our collective mental health. FASD and the challenges it brings reflects this deeper dysfunction, calling on us to confront not only the disorder itself, but the systems perpetuating it. The role of alcohol in this story cannot be ignored. It is a dominant force of our culture, one that we must reckon with if we were able to create meaningful change. As long as alcohol occupies its central place, resilience will remain a necessary skill to navigate the consequences it leaves in its wake. My own resilience has been a lifeline, allowing me to not only survive, but to grow. Yet, I dream of a world where the resilience I've had to build is no longer essential, where future generations are not burdened by the same struggles. Standing here today represents countless hours of work, unseen and unglamorous, yet vital. Resilience is both my greatest source of pride and a reminder of the battles that I have fought. It's bittersweet, carrying with it the both weight of my past and the light of my future. The best things in life often hold this duality. They remind us that strength and struggle are inseparable. I hope my story serves as a reminder that healing is not a solitary act, but a shared journey. It is a path that we can walk together, guided by respect, openness, and a commitment to creating spaces where safety and possibility flourish. Thank you.
Just wanted to acknowledge a couple things that you're saying. It is so important to understand FASD as a whole body diagnosis. We've come to learn that over the last few years with research and different things like that. But to talk about the nervous system, to really help us understand, for individuals with FASD, our bodies are go, go, go all the time in a world with heightened sensory issues. So what Shannon spoke about here today is so important for us to know and understand, for those loved ones, those that we're supporting, and for ourselves as individuals with FASD, to be kind and allow ourselves that rest and that understanding, right? When we're experiencing those things, right? And so really honored to have you here and super fortunate that in an odd way you've lived the life you've lived, because it's now helped you to be able to give other people. And I've had the opportunity to meet Shannon over the last year or two and at different conferences, and it always inspires me to think about myself and my journey and the things I've been through and use those as learning lessons. So appreciate you for that. So thank you. I'm going to invite Michelle up here to do a little thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. Oh, thanks.
And we do have cards that we'll hand out for Shannon's contact information. We'll give those out. Right now we're going to get ready and head out on break. But before we do that, we are going to prepare for after the break. We're going to break into two parts. I'm going to let Michelle explain it because I thought she was saying split everybody in half. And
My legs and arms are all good.
So I'll let Michelle explain how we're going to go about doing that.
Okay, so a couple things first. We have to do a little change to our agenda. Our presenter for this afternoon, unfortunately, her flight was delayed leaving Vancouver yesterday, and she did not make it to Sioux last night. She's just going to come in today. So you can see highlighted in the bottom from the 2:45 where it says keynote address, that we're going to take one of the workshops from tomorrow. So we're going to take the magazine News Important Journey and put that in there. And then tomorrow, you can see the highlighted yellow right there, Vanna, thank you. 11:15. That's going to be where we'll put that keynote, which means lunch will be pushed a little later tomorrow, so we'll eat a little bit bigger breakfast. And then you're gonna have a faster lunch too, so you're gonna eat a bigger breakfast and you're gonna eat lunch really fast tomorrow, okay? So I'm preparing you now, so we just have it ready now, so tomorrow it's not a shock. And then we are going to do the workshop. We'll only do one workshop tomorrow then. So you'll just stay in the main ballroom all day tomorrow, but for today we are going to split you in half. What we're gonna do is we'll do probably, I'm thinking,
this table here, you guys will go with this group, but then everybody else on this side, you are group A. Okay? Group A will just stay here after the break. Okay? Group B, so you three, and everybody else over here, you're group B, and you're gonna go into the back ballroom. And then after we do that in the afternoon, when we come back from lunch, you'll, right, am I right? We'll switch spots. Everybody here?
So the people that are going back there will stay here, and the people that are here will go back there.
So we're gonna have a break, so as soon as break is done, please go to your respective workshop area.
Before you go to break, I have a